Okay, in this section, we're going to go ahead and design for a testimonial area as indicated right here. So if we refer back to the client brief, there's a section in here where we have a featured testimonial area that the fictional client wants us to specify. And that is this information right here. So we have 2 bits of type-based information. Other ad agencies didn't blah, 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 which is the actual quote from the testimonial author. And then also here's the author information. And so now it's up to us to design something that's going to fit with our current design using this information. So let's go back to our desktop design and get working on that. Now, what we're going to do is let's just get that type going right here. So I'm just going to hit the keyboard. We'll go back to the client brief, and we will copy in between the quotes the actual testimonial, and we'll paste that in right there. It's going to screw up our type, but don't worry about that. We're going to make this white, and for this, we're going to use an entirely different font and also a font type. It's not going to be a sans serif font like we've been using throughout. It's going to be a serif font. So, and that font is going to be Garamond. It's just more of like an elegant sort of typeface. It's very different because it's a serif font, and it has those little things hanging off the ends of the type. So we're going to choose to make this whole section centered. Whenever you don't have a lot of information for a section, you can't go wrong typically with just centering the information. So what we'll do is also make this pretty large because we don't have a lot of content for this particular section. So we're going to make this one here around 42 and also center the type. All right. So do we like this this leading, which is the line height? No, I think right here looks pretty solid. And we could also stand to push this in a little bit more, maybe right there. I really like that. It's really elegant, nice white space between the section above it. And so one thing also, when you're spacing out your sections, you want to, as much as possible, keep the same amount of white space between them. Right now, we don't have that. Just to illustrate this, if I were to take this tool right here, just the rectangle, that's the amount of white space between this section and this section. And then if we duplicated that, we'll see that is not the case right here. So one has to give. We either have to bring this one up, in which case I personally think it's a little bit too close, especially on desktop. So what we can do is we can take all this and we can increase it. And that way we have this much space and then this much space from there. All right, so that I like how that's looking. Now you can, for this testimonial, just put the quote right there. That's fine, but you could also stylize the actual quotes themselves. So we could take the type tool again, and we just put a quote, and we can really make this bigger. And we could also make it sort of like a watermark, so it won't be 100% visible, or you could leave it like this as is and put the second one down there. So we can duplicate this, just reverse this, holding shift, and get those, positioned correctly. A front-end developer dealing with CSS would be able to style these exactly as is. And maybe we can also, like I said, I don't really think I like how high of contrast they are, just because it's taking away from the type itself. So what we can do is we can see if we have an existing color here that might work. That's no good. I think what we'll do is just break that, and I'm just going to put in something custom here, something like right around here in this section. So notice how I bumped that up to 30. And we can go ahead and add this to, not a type style, but a color right here. So I don't believe we have 30 value yet. So we can just go ahead and hit create style. And we're going to name this primary color 30. I'm not sure if we have one already like that. let's go ahead here to our color section. We do have 25. That's actually pretty close. I may not have had to do that. Let's go back to our desktop design and let's change this. That's 25. Oh, that will work perfect. So we didn't even need to do that. So if I come back here, we could take this one, which was 30, right click and just delete this style. There we go. All right, so I like that so far. Again, we want to make sure this is centered up. So make sure you select your elements here and make sure they're all centered. Take these two, just move them over a bit. And that's looking good. And now we'll go ahead and specify the actual author. We're going to make the assumption that they also gave us a photograph of the person. So we're going to have a little circular avatar icon, not a polygon. We'll do ellipse, just like that. And then we'll right click and go to Unsplash. And then we will just type in person. All right. Doesn't matter who. It did say a male name, I believe. We'll just use, all right, Gary, don't take too much time. We'll use this guy. There we go. All right. And then we'll go ahead to client brief. Client brief section, and it's John Doe of somecrypto.com. So really that's two different elements. We have the person's name and the their establishment or their website. So what we can do is go back here, and for this we're not going to use the same font. We're going to revert back to this type over here. So if I take this, we're going to put John Doe. Let's break that. And let us also specify auto width. And then for the size of this, I think we're going to use our paragraph style. So let's change that right here. And let's try also adjusting it so that it's bold. And we'll make it a little bit larger to 24 or so. All right, so I like that. And then also we'll put somecrypto.com underneath. And for this one, let's see if we can use our paragraph as well. So we'll put somecrypto.com. I think I really like that as is. And so real quickly, let me break that. Get this here and then add our paragraph back. There we go. So now we can push this up. And then we'll group this and then center it. And maybe push this down slightly. All right, I like that. So we could just leave it like this, but we could also do other things to bring more texture about it. So what we can do is we can actually take our original background, that blurred out graphic, which is, I believe, that one right there. We can just copy that and we can paste it. So now we have two copies if we come down here far enough. And I'm just going to drag this down so I can grab it with my down keyboard arrow key. Let's get a little bit closer. Okay, and we're going to come down and put it right behind here, but we're going to fade this a lot more so that it works out better. So first we can double click into it and change this to a crop. And if we make it a little bit larger in this section right here, even larger than that. There we go. We get a different look. And then we can also add another linear gradient. So we have one at the bottom, which I think we need to fade that a little bit more. So if we adjust this up right around there, we can add another one. So for this one, we're going to change this to a linear as well. And we're going to reverse. All right, so this says 20%. We want that to be 100%. There we go. So now that's looking a lot better. And then additionally, the whole pass-through of the layer itself, let's try that and change that to 20. That way it's not contrasting so much. So we could pull this up a little bit and this one down. So now we could probably stand to boost it up to maybe 30%, or maybe back to 40 because we did just hide a lot of it. Oh, and also the the colors of the gradient at the top are not matching the background. So there we go. That's looking a lot better. We can do the same thing with this one, which is at 0%. And then also this one as well. So we'll grab this, change that back to 0%. All right, and that's looking pretty solid. I'm actually kind of wanting to drag this all the stuff down here to center it more, just like that. I'm still not happy about how quickly that's fading off. So this top one, yeah, we'll drag it down more. Yeah, and as you can see, it's very, very subtle, but it does help us add texture essentially. And we can move this around, of course. I like that. Now, a couple final things we're going to add to make this section even more interesting, and this falls in the realm of graphic design. Maybe we can add like little right and left borders here, borders essentially. We'll make this white. We can make these high contrast, or we could reduce the contrast. We could grab the background and increase it like around this, right around there. So 276, 837. Small elements like this you don't necessarily have to add as a part of your design system. All right, I think this looks pretty good right there, and we can go a step further. I do want to show you how to integrate some Figma community assets that we can use. So if we go to community, now we're already using the block idea as a reference to the blockchain, but we can also do some other things. So we can play on that a little bit more. So if we go to illustrations and we type in geometry perhaps, or 3D even. Maybe 3D would be a better. We have shapes right here. Let's do 3D. And there's one that I was looking for that I found before that was really quite cool. I believe this is it right here. So these free 3D shapes. So if we click on shapes, you can get all of these shapes, and you can also adjust the colors to match your design system. So let's go ahead and duplicate that. It's going to open up a new Figma document, and we're going to click over here to shapes, and let's just grab this cube right here. Now I've copied it. We're going to paste it in. Now of course it's very large, and we're just going to put a small cube maybe right here. We could change this gradient maybe to match our primary color. Look at that. That looks really cool. And so let's add another one doing the same thing, maybe like a half semicircle sphere type thing. So copy that. Again, it's going to be large. Scale that down even more so. And we'll change this here to that color. And if you wanted to, we could play around with these type of shapes. Maybe integrate this box here, or this cube. And let's go ahead and change that pass-through maybe to like 20%. And you could do, anything you want, rotating it. Maybe change this to 10% instead. And there we go. So now we just created a really cool section of the design that has texture, that has graphic design elements, a new font face, and this really just helps change the perspective of the layout so that it's not so typical and standard in nature. All right, so I'm pretty happy with how everything's coming out so far. Let's take a look at our wireframe and see what will be next. This is going to be the crypto exchanges section where we're going to design an actual table to illustrate all the features associated with each cryptocurrency exchange.